Hello my friends. My name is Bot Mathematician and this is Holomancer.
Also, Chief Investigative Reporter Dora joined us this evening.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop. Unexpectedly, Hearthstone players have given Blizzard a resounding slap in the face. For no apparent reason, players have refused to buy pre-orders of Perils and Paradise, which may make this expansion, commercially speaking, the worst in the history of the game. The developers have already indirectly confirmed the problems. The current situation could lead to the biggest crisis of all time. Have players abandoned Hearthstone? What is really happening to the game? Is it true that there are more and more players but they bring less and less money to Blizzard? I did my own investigation, collected a ton of data about one of the most mysterious situations, and I invite you guys to comment on it all.
In this video, you will find a lot of facts and speculations about this extraordinary situation.
Dora, where do we start?
I, as a journalist, regularly collect data about the game in the hope of finding a scoop. I study everything I can reach and find in the public domain. One of the sources is sites that publish reports on the revenue of games on mobile platforms. In mid-June, a new Hearthstone expansion was announced. This traditionally leads to an increase in game revenues, including on mobile platforms. But this time the game earned a record low amount of money. According to Sensor Tower data, the total revenue amounted to approximately $1.6 million on Android and iOS devices. Although a year ago, during the pre-release period, the game earned more than $2 million. App Magic Portal indirectly confirms this data. Hearthstone made significantly less money than Yu-Gi-Oh!, Marvel Snap, Magic the Gathering Arena, and even a card game with wrestling characters. I've been collecting data from these resources for several years and I've never seen such terrible numbers before, especially during the reveal period.
Dear viewers, please note, despite the fact that 3 different sites publish approximately the same figures, they may differ significantly from the real income of the game.
We have repeatedly found inconsistencies with other games, so please take these figures conditionally, but despite the inconsistencies, they are a good indication of trends. Also note that this statistic concerns only revenues on mobile platforms without taking into account PC and Mac, which, as we assume, are the main sources of revenues for Hearthstone.
Upon receiving these strange numbers, I immediately created a poll on our community tab and asked players if they had already pre-ordered. I was amazed that only 8% of players have made a purchase, which is almost 40% less than the same period before the release of Titans. 9% plan to do so, and more often than not this category of players put their plans into action. The most interesting are those who are undecided, they are 10%. In order for the set not to be a financial failure, each of them must make a purchase before the release of the expansion, but the probability of this is negligible. The vast majority of players do not plan to make a purchase.
Let's take a quick look at the trend of pre-orders. This table shows the percentage of players from our community who have pre-ordered each expansion in the last 6 years.
The first financial setback came in 2019 with the announcement of the Saviors of Uldum. Before the expansion's release, players found themselves with less gold than usual due to the new paid adventure system. This led to a hidden increase in the cost of the collection. This was one of the reasons that made players abandon their purchase. Only 27% of our subscribers pre-ordered. On average, the revenue from each of our subscribers was only $22 for Blizzard. After that, we stopped getting paid adventures. It was likely an extremely negative experience for the company. Please note a very interesting fact. Scholomance Academy was the most successful and popular pre-order among our subscribers. If we divide the spending by each viewer, on average everyone spent $33. It's no coincidence that in Perils and Paradise, the developers are bringing back the dual-class cards that were a major feature in Scholomance. This is an opportunity to maximize profits through a mechanic that was popular in the past. Overall in 2020, the company was able to effectively sell pre-orders to the core community, but that luck ran out at the end of the year instead with the release of Rewards Track. The scandal and boycott had some negative impact on the most loyal players. The number of people willing to make a purchase decreased in 2021, but the total revenue from pre-orders didn't change much as players bought more expensive bundles. There is another factor. Since the rewards track was added, some players opted to buy paid access instead of pre-orders. The last expansion of 2021 turned out to be one of the worst in history. The Fractured and Alterac Valley expansion saw record low community interest. At that point, the game was really near death. Due to Russia's military attack on Ukraine, we were not able to collect some important data about the 2022 sets. We only know that our subscribers actively pre-ordered Castle Nathria. But after the announcement of March of the Lich King, interest in pre-orders decreased significantly again. The developers used the coolest period in the history of the game to secretly increase the cost of the collection, which led to similar consequences as in the days of Uldum. Throughout 2023, the number of our subscribers willing to pre-order gradually increased. The Whizbang set continued this trend. Set after set, the most active players spent more and more money on pre-orders, although it's not comparable to the revenues that Blizzard received before. Despite this, the positive trend can't be ignored, but with the announcement of Perils in Paradise, something broke again. And this time there is no specific reason for what happened.
This breakdown could lead to disaster without exaggeration. A few days ago, my anonymous sources reported that Blizzard conducted a survey among players. The main topic the company was interested in was whether you pre-ordered the new set. What do you think of the new mechanics? What is the likelihood that you will pre-order, and why don't you want to make a purchase? This survey is another indirect confirmation that Blizzard expected more from the sales.
The paradox is that there is no particular visible reason for such a low interest in pre-orders. I conducted a poll on X Twitter and could not find an unambiguous answer to the question, why did you refuse to buy pre-orders? The most popular reasons were high cost, lack of financial ability, uninteresting expansion theme, dull new cards, problems with current design and balance. In any other circumstances we can get the same motives for any new expansion. Yes, the players reacted ambiguously to the new set. We even held a debate on this topic. But do you really think this is the worst set in Hearthstone history? I'm not sure about that. Moreover, there is a possibility that this will be the most influential expansion in the next few years. So perhaps the problem actually lies in something else.
Yes, there are certainly a ton of flaws in the current meta and modern approach to design, but are they really that critical? In any period, there will be players who hate even the most ideal competitive environment. In competitive games that have global problems with balance and design, there is a significant decrease in user activity. According to HS Replay statistics, the deck tracker users are significantly more active this year and play more matches than in the same pre-release period the previous year. In July 2023, users averaged just over 6 million battles per week. This year in June the number of matches has increased to almost 8 million matches. Sorry, but that doesn't sound like record low interest. Here is another statistic, this time from Firestone. This deck tracker is growing its audience like a snowball. Users of this application spend a record amount of time in the standard format after the release of Whizbang. These data cannot be called fully representative, but they also confirm the positive dynamics.
Here is the official source. The total number of players who reached the legend rank in June amounted to more than 142,000 times, although in a similar pre-release period in the previous year, the total number dropped significantly to almost the minimum value of 53,000. Despite the fact that I don't like the theme of the Whizbang expansion, I have to admit that this expansion is better than Festival of Legends, which by the way wasn't bad. At least the user activity stats indirectly confirm that. I really want to find evidence that Hearthstone is dying, but at least the numbers and data suggest otherwise. Despite the problems and shortcomings of the metagame, the developers are generating good regular content. It may not seem like the best in history to you, but it's impossible to call the last few years the worst period.
Our conclusions and versions of what was happening did not coincide with Dora's. It seems to me that the main reason for low profitability is the monetization crisis. Let's pretend that the circumstantial data from this video are facts that reflect the real state of affairs. In this case, we must conclude that the overall player base has increased at least over the last year. More players are using deck trackers, more players are reaching legend rank. According to our data, our subscribers are highly engaged and spend a fair amount of time in the game on a daily basis, indicating a high interest in Hearthstone. This is evidenced by the average level of our community on the rewards track. But things are not only good in standard. Based on the total number of players who managed to reach 8,000 rating in the previous season of Battlegrounds, we can assume that the total number of players who played at least one match during 4 months amounted to more than 7 million accounts. This is an absolute record since the leaderboards section was first published.
But if there has been an increase in audience, why hasn't it had any impact on revenue, at least on mobile platforms? Here's this month's real-time data from AppMagic. With 2 weeks left before the expansion release, Hearthstone is still failing to increase profits. This anomalous situation could indicate a catastrophic loss of loyalty. I suggest that an endless chain of mistakes, terrible decisions, missed opportunities, hidden cost increases, streamlined processes, deleting modes, and a constant taste of disappointment have led to a loss of interest among the core community. The core fans of the game have turned into casuals who are likely still playing but have stopped making purchases and taking an active interest in the game. Because of this, Hearthstone is almost impossible to create hype. If we look at Google Trends, we can see that this year Hearthstone is leading in search queries compared to other popular multi-platform digital card games. But if we look at YouTube statistics, the situation is drastically different. Over the last 5 years there has been a rapid decline in audience interest in Hearthstone videos. The interest has decreased by about 3 times. While interest in Magic: The Gathering Arena is gradually increasing. The undisputed leader is Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Add to that the abnormally low activity of the Hearthstone community on Reddit and the constant loss of viewers on Twitch.
A decrease in activity on social networks does not always indicate a catastrophic state of affairs in the game, but it is a dangerous indicator of declining loyalty. Yes, it's very hard to maintain a core community for a game that's 10 years old, as players inevitably have a lot of personal life changes during that time. But Blizzard has been systematically hitting the most loyal fans for a very long period. In the current circumstances, community are not ready to forgive even minor flaws or ambiguous decisions, and each serious mistake can lead to an explosion and finally split the small core of loyal fans.
In today's circumstances, if your audience is growing but you are making less money compared to competitors with smaller audiences, then you have a very big problem, since this indicates the low financial efficiency of your product.
Blizzard has spent the last few years maximizing their efforts to increase profits. We've gotten a ton of new offerings in the store. Hundreds of portraits, new cosmetics, golden packs, diamond and signature cards, mini sets and even new currency, but all of this has at best helped offset the drop instead of increasing revenue. This is a serious problem that needs to be addressed, and perhaps to do so, the monetization of the game needs to be completely changed. Low profits are a huge problem for Blizzard, but it can also have an impact on players. Do you still remember the drama with the weekly quests? The current situation may support our theory that this was a clumsy attempt to increase profits in the long term. Instead of modernizing the monetization system and introducing new ideas, we periodically get manipulative traps that secretly try to make Hearthstone more expensive, and this never leads the company to financial success. If we draw conclusions based on indirect data, then the game is in very good shape. Players are mostly happy and spend a lot of time playing the game. This is the main thing for the players. Moreover, a loyal economy will allow them to play and feel free without investing money. The game does not die, the game develops and perhaps even grows. But the only drawback of the game is the lack of a new long-term monetization strategy, without which the game as a service cannot develop. The good news is that Blizzard still has an opportunity to solve this problem and even regain the trust of the core community.
My version of declining profits is more pessimistic than the guy's optimistic theory. What if Hearthstone is really dying? The audience has dropped significantly over the past year and the stats are significantly skewed by Chinese players and bot activity in all regions. Hearthstone will return to the China region this summer. NetEase sent out a survey to determine the compensation for players returning to the game. I received a copy of this survey from an anonymous source and found a separate string of questions for players from China who are now playing on other regional servers. The company is interested in the desire of players to return to the Chinese servers and is trying to find out what factors would be key. This may indicate that there are more Chinese players on different servers than we could have imagined in our wildest assumptions. If NetEase presents a generous reward, they may all return to the isolated Chinese region again, which means it will be immediately reflected in the stats. Moreover, the recent removal of AFK grind will show the real engagement of our viewers. A key moment for Hearthstone is coming soon, and we'll get a more accurate picture of the game's current affairs.
We still think that Dora is over-dramatizing and the Hearthstone servers will not be empty after the Chinese players leave.
But more important is to find out what our viewers think. Why do you think some of the players refused to buy pre-orders? Is it the monetization crisis and loss of loyalty of the core community, or just many players left the game, and the data is heavily skewed by the activity of Chinese players?
It is also interesting to know your opinion about the current state of affairs in the game. Do you believe that the current period is the worst in history? Share your thoughts in the comments and join the polls in the community tab.
Traditionally, we want to express our boundless gratitude to our sponsors.
Dear friends, your help is invaluable. We will be grateful for any support.
Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for spending this time with us. We really hope that we will have the opportunity to get in touch in the next video.
Take care of yourself.
And never give up.
Job's done.